Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hawks Latest, your number one source for news, updates, rumors, opinions, and you guessed it, the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. I'm your host, Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL, and today we've got a loaded episode because guess what, guys? The NBA draft is tomorrow, the moment we've all been waiting for ever since the Atlanta Hawks were eliminated in the play-in just a couple months ago. And obviously, the team is in the thick of off-season activity, as one would expect, and for the first time since taking over the front office after the firing of Landry Fields following the conclusion of the season, General Manager Onsi Soleil had actually met with the media just yesterday, and he gave everyone some actual insight into how this team is operating and how their approach is entering a pivotal offseason in the franchise's history. So in this video, we are going to break down what Soleil had to say, including some clear draft philosophy, some strong support for the franchise's center, and an intriguing quote about the future of the franchise, Trae Young. I mean, the face of the franchise, Trae Young. He's the past and the future because he's an important piece to the team. So we're going to shift gears after that to the draft board, where the Hawks have been very active, even, contacting teams in the top of the draft, in the top five-ish range. That was an interesting report that came out yesterday, and we're going to talk about that a little more later. Plus, some potential trade targets like Malik Monk and Devin Carter of the Sacramento Kings, and then also maybe a guy like Dylan Brooks, who just got traded to the Phoenix Suns. All of these guys who could fit into Atlanta's plans and salary structures. So it's going to be an interesting video. So without further ado, let's get into it and start with GM Onsi Soleil's first public press conference since being appointed general manager of the Atlanta Hawks. And frankly, it was refreshing. So Soleil obviously took over for Landry Fields after the conclusion of the 2024-2025 NBA season. He was clear in his words. He was very direct and made claims that, while I appreciate Landry for his time here, that Landry wouldn't have made. It's a tone that many Hawks fans have been waiting to hear from someone in this front office. When he was asked about their draft strategy, he left no room for interpretation. He said, "When it comes to the draft, I always pick the best player available. That's my philosophy. I don't believe in picking for position. If there's a guy that makes sense for us, we're going to take him, and always the best player." That is definitely a refreshing tone to hear and something that I actually really agree with. Atlanta is a team that's not really in a position to, draft for, fit and really team need. They need to go out and get the best players that they think can impact the team down the road, whether or not they fit the team's current vision. That's the kind of conviction that can, shape a team coming out of a retooling year. And given that Atlanta has 2 first-round picks, 13 and 22, that mindset could get tested, especially if they don't move up the board. So Soleil also addressed the team's size and defense. He was asked about that, and, obviously these are areas where the roster clearly needs some decent improvements. But when asked about adding a big this offseason and adding some length in the lineup, he quickly brought the conversation back to Onyeka Okongwu, who did a phenomenal job taking over as the starting center last year. He said the Hawks love him and they're very excited about his future here, to really kind of sum up his words. And then lastly, which is also perhaps the most important note here from Soleil's media time, he said, "We are locked in with Trae. We are locked into next season, ready to move forward." That obviously came into response from a interviewer asking a question regarding Trae Young's future in Atlanta. Soleil was very clear that Trae Young is a part of that, and they're locked in with him. Trae is obviously extension eligible in just a couple weeks now. Expect that to maybe gain some traction as they seem very confident in Trae's future with the franchise. It wasn't a blockbuster quote, but it was the clearest endorsement yet that Trae Young remains the focal point of this overall retool, at least for now. So now we're going to talk about draft strategy a little more. And things are really heating up, obviously, with the draft tomorrow. So Kevin O'Connor of Yahoo Sports, very infamous with Hawks fans, he's made comments about the organization that, we haven't thought too highly of in the past, but he had an interesting report just yesterday. He said that the Hawks have contacted teams drafting in the top 5 for this draft tomorrow, indicating a serious desire for the Atlanta Hawks to move up the board. And, taking it with a grain of salt, because I don't know if that's something the Hawks will realistically do. It's interesting to see that they're really just doing their due diligence and, kind of scoping out what's really there and available for them. Whether that's to pursue Kaman Maluach, someone that the Hawks have been linked to the entire draft process, or maybe guys like Trey Johnson, the sharpshooter out of Texas, Ace Bailey, the elite scoring forward, or even Con Knappel, the sharpshooter and decent defender out of Duke. It's clear that Atlanta is doing their homework. I mean, they brought in several guys. I mean, Saleh actually mentioned the team brought in over 80 players for pre-draft work in Atlanta, and I mean that number does surpass 100 when you include interviews and combine meetings and all that good stuff. I mean, that level of prep shows that they're ready for any scenario, something that is great to see as someone who follows the organization so closely. I mean, so the Hawks could either move up or back, but it's interesting to see that they've at least contacted teams in the top 5. I mean, teams like the Sixers, Hornets, Jazz are all reportedly open to trading down for the right package. And while a top 5 trade up remains very unlikely, it's not impossible. Nothing's impossible for tomorrow's draft. Remember, the Hawks do have assets. I mean, picks 13 and 22. A large trade exception and young talent on affordable deals. And crazier things have happened on draft night, so just be on the lookout for a move around there. So now let's talk trade targets for the rest of the video, which is something that obviously this channel has grown a lot off of, because there are always some super interesting trade targets in the NBA, and people are always moving around, so it's an interesting thing to talk about. So according to Hoops Hype's Mike Scotto, who has grown as a very reliable reporter over the years, the Sacramento Kings have been exploring ways to get into the first round and are potentially open to dealing both Malik Monk and last year's first round pick Devin Carter. So now let's start with Monk. I mean, he's been in 6 Man of the Year conversations for several seasons now. He should have won it 2 years ago, and that ended up going to Naz Reid. He was kind of robbed, and I think he knows it. But last year, I mean, he averaged 17 points, 4 rebounds, and 6 assists a game. He is 100% a proven scorer in the NBA. He's a very capable playmaker, and he even showed some, much improved ball handling and point guard chops when, obviously when De'Aaron Fox was traded last year and Sacramento was left without a point guard. He really stepped into that role and did a decent job. He's under contract at around $20 million annually for the next 3 years. That's a fair number. And importantly, it's one that does fit within Atlanta's $25 million trade exception. That's such a valuable piece. I really hope the Hawks capitalize off of it. It's something they do not need to take for granted, because this is something every other NBA team would be, trying to get if they had any sort of similar situation, just because of how valuable it is. So Devin Carter, meanwhile, didn't see much court time in his rookie year. I mean, understandably, he wasn't really going to play over any of the guys they had in the rotation, but the potential is obviously there. He's a tough, gritty defender with developing offensive skills. He didn't shoot the ball very well last season. I mean, if the Hawks were to make a move for him, I mean, obviously that wouldn't require much, but he could enter camp battling Kobe Buffkin for that backup point guard role. It could kind of give both of them a little more of an edge, and maybe both of them could contribute long term. And obviously, like I said, the cost to acquire him would be minimal. I mean, if Sacramento wants picks and the Hawks want rotation upgrades, a deal here could be a win-win. I mean, getting a guy like Malik Monk in Atlanta could be super valuable. It would, obviously eliminate the need to re-sign Karis LeVert, because you would have Monk locked up for the next few seasons, who's obviously an elite bench scorer and would fit along well in Atlanta. Hawks fans would be over the moon for Malik Monk. He would fit in great here, and it's something that I think the Hawks should really consider. And speaking of things I think the Hawks should consider, this one might be unpopular. I'm gonna get a lot of people disagreeing with me in the comments. I'm already ready for it. But another name that the Hawks should absolutely be monitoring is Dillon Brooks. So, as you all know, Kevin Durant was traded to Houston, and Brooks was actually part of that trade, and he was rerouted to the Phoenix Suns as part of that blockbuster move. But he is widely seen as a temporary fit there. No one really knows what's going on in Phoenix right now. No one even knows if they're going to keep Devin Booker. There's a lot going on there, and I would assume that Brooks is likely going to be rerouted. I don't think he's someone that the Suns really have much interest in keeping around. I mean, let's be clear. Brooks, while he has his negatives, he's one of the most polarizing players in the NBA. He's also one of the best perimeter defenders available. I mean, he's an absolutely elite defender, and his outside shooting has very much improved over the past several seasons that he's been in the NBA, and he's grown into a very reliable player on both ends. I mean, he's on a deal paying just north of $20 million a year for 2 more seasons. Again, that also fits in neatly into the Hawks trade exception that expires on July 7th. So if they were going to make a deal for any of these guys, they would have to do it pretty quickly, maybe on draft night tomorrow. So, I mean, for a team that certainly needs toughness, defensive edge and, veteran presence and, good locker room guy, Brooks could be a sneaky smart pickup and kind of help give these guys more of an edge as we battle to, be at the top of the Eastern Conference as early as next season. I mean, he may not be Phoenix's long-term plan, but he could be a strong short-term asset in Atlanta and someone who I think they absolutely should consider. So to recap, Anzi Saleh gave Hawks fans full reason for optimism with a clear draft philosophy, some front office transparency, something we haven't really seen in a long time, and a full endorsement of Trae Young and Onyeka Okongwu, two core pieces for the Atlanta Hawks. I mean, meanwhile, Atlanta's in full exploration mode, talking with teams in the top 5, working out over 80 prospects, but 100 counting the combine, and evaluating trade opportunities with, from Sacramento to Phoenix. There's a lot on the table here. Could they land a top prospect like Malawach or Bailey? Could they add a scoring punch off the bench like Monk or a veteran defender like Dylan Brooks? We will find out very soon. The NBA draft is just around the corner, so be on the lookout. Until then, thank you guys for watching once again. These videos, we're pumping them out every day to keep you guys informed on everything going on with the organization. So I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Once again, I'm Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.